Joe Thomas. He will be a part of that broadcast, and he is a Hall of Famer. Once a Hall of Famer, always a Hall of Famer, a Browns legend, a Browns analyst, number one in our hearts, 73 in the program. Joe Thomas joins us on the show. Joe, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for that awesome introduction. We hope you don't watch him on Friday, but if you have to, it's not going to be that bad. Thanks for that one, Ken.
It'll be good. It will be good. I said you'd be good. You and Chris and Aditi. It's a great time.
Yes. No, I'm just teasing you, man. We're excited. We're down here in Charlotte all week for the joint practices. And, of course, tomorrow, that first preseason game, we're going to get that first look at Shedeur Sanders. And I know there's a lot of Browns fans that are pretty excited to see that.
Okay, I'm going to get to Shadur. Everybody wants to hear about Shadur. I'm going to give it to him right off the rip. You want me to go positive or you want me to go concerning first?
Well, let's go concerning first so we finish with an upswing.
Sensational. Pre-snap penalties. I got wind of it. I'm worried about it. Can't have it. Got to cut it down.
Yeah, I mean, that's really been one of the biggest concerns, I think, with Shadur, just like any young rookie quarterback thus far, because, hey, it's different when all of a sudden you're running plays under center. You got a new snap count. You got a bunch of different things to think about with shifts and formations and all the other knuckleheads on the outside who are also young trying to figure things out. So you got a lot going on. And, of course, once the ball snapped, you got some things you got to do too as well. So there's a lot going on when you're a young quarterback, and there has been quite a few procedural penalties. And that's the first thing that you want to see cleaned up in that first game.
Obviously, every team around the NFL says they want to work on turnovers and penalties. And you, in your career with the Browns, you had teams that were penalized a lot. You were teams that were not penalized so much. Is it just randomness, or is it a different accountability? Is it a different teaching point every year, every week, really?
Yeah, I think the great thing in coaching is you get from the players what you emphasize. So if you're a team that emphasizes discipline, you emphasize reducing penalties and self-inflicted wounds, that's usually what you're going to get. Now, of course, situationally and, of course, scheme has something to do with that, and definitely personnel. You know, you got Myles Garrett there. He's probably going to get a few more sack fumbles and force a few more turnovers. Same thing if you're running some high-flying offense that's throwing the ball a ton. Of course, you're probably going to have a few more turnovers. Oh, and great. There's a giant fire engine coming right now. But a lot of it is dictated by the situation and then what the coaching staff is going to emphasize. So I think this year, when you're a team that wants to lean on your defense and you want to lean on your running game, minimizing those self-inflicted wounds is going to be crucial for the Browns.
Joe Thomas joining us here on the show. Joe Flacco got all the first-team reps yesterday in the joint practice. Is that a good idea?
Well, I think he is your likely starter for week one. And as great as it is to develop the young guys and get all the other players ready to play, there's still a season to play, and week one is going to be the most important thing that you're working towards right now to give yourself an opportunity to get some wins, right? I mean, I know a lot of people in Browns world are looking, hey, we need to find a quarterback. We got 2 first-round picks next year. We need to find out about these guys. Yes, we do. But have a little patience, pump the brakes a little bit on that, because I think that there's a lot of guys in this building after watching how this offensive line plays, how this defensive line plays, how that defense plays, and then seeing Joe Flacco throwing the ball around like he's still maybe 35 years old a couple decades ago when he was in his 30s, and thinking, hey, this is still a team that can make some noise. So I'm not ready to give up on him yet and start playing for a quarterback next year.
Joe Thomas with us right now. Obviously, our discussion has been centered a lot around their handling of the quarterbacks, their allocation of reps, and, of course, where Shadur sticks in that, because he's the most famous guy. He's the most popular guy for a lot of fans out there. What have you noticed, and what is your takeaway by even being there yesterday and how they operated?
Well, I think talking to people in the building, everybody's been very impressed with Shedeur Sanders and how serious and driven and motivated he is to be great. I mean, he's doing all the things right. And really, some of the noise that you hear on the outside and some of the controversy around how Shadur is being handled is not the feeling within the building, because he's doing everything right. I think he understands the plan too, and he doesn't want to get thrown to the wolves right away, but he wants an opportunity. And it's been great. You know, Dylan Gabriel had a little bit of an injury this week. Same thing with Kenny Pickett. So they were out of the rotation for a little while. So Shadur had an opportunity to get in there a little bit more. And he made some really nice plays. And he showed up in the way that you saw him show up when he was in college, making some really beautiful, accurate throws, timing throws down the field. And so I think when you get that confirmation against an NFL defense of some guy that was doing it in college, you wonder how he's going to make that transition to the next level. And then he does it in training camp practices, especially against another team, like the joint practices this week and next week. You start to feel really good about him. Now you start to think, okay, now we need to find a way to get him a few more reps. Still getting Joe Flacco ready, probably to start, but let's get Shedeur a few more reps, get him the majority of the number 2 reps, those opportunities to grow and see how quickly he can grow and learn this offense.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Joe Thomas joining us here on the show. You have worked with Dewand Jones in the offseason. You're down with him there. Saw some video of him looking good. Lyman and I got a chance to talk to him last week. What's been the secret to trying to unlock the potential of Dewand Jones at left tackle?
Well, I think between any player and any coach, to get the most out of each other, you got to have that trust. And I think just being friendly and friends with Dewand since they brought him in here, even though this is the first time I've had a chance to really work with him, I think it goes a long way because you build a little relationship and you build that trust outside of, hey, here's this guy. Supposedly he knows what he's talking about. Listen to him for a couple of days. There's some trust built there. There's some relationship. So coming in and helping think, okay, Dewand, this is my checklist when I would go to line of scrimmage. This is my checklist pre-practice. This is my process of how I figured out what are the things I'm not doing well. How do I work on those things? And really, you have to be self-motivated and self-driven. And you have to be a little bit of a self-taught person when you're playing in the NFL because you have an offensive line coach, great offensive line coach. He knows technique. He knows scheme. He's going to put you in the right position, but there's not enough of them to coach you on every single play, on every single rep, on every single second of every meeting. So you've got to take that accountability and put it on your own shoulders. That's how you become a great player. And so for me, just trying to teach him some of the little foundational principles of playing the position and then teaching him a process of how he evaluates himself every single day and how he identifies areas that he needs to improve on.
Joe Thomas joining us on the show. Let me ask you about yourself for a second. How would you grade yourself about how you're coming along coaching? Because I think it's very hard for guys who did it at the highest level because we saw with Wayne Gretzky, he admitted, he's like, I don't understand how they can't do this. And it's always stuck out to me because it's like, okay, Joe, I mean, you had to work hard, but you're a big, strong, tall guy, very athletic. Like there's a natural ability there. How do you get that to translate to the players?
Well, it was such a benefit for me being able to spend last year over in Europe as the offensive line coach of the Munich Ravens because I had 11 guys who had a lot less football experience than the guys I'm working with now in Cleveland. And you really had to go back to the drawing board almost in your mind, right? Because you played at a pretty high level and the way you think about the game is sort of graduate calculus level. And you have to bring it back to the foundational principles of offensive line play. And so going back to January when I moved to Germany and having an opportunity to work with those guys one-on-one in the off season, doing the drills and seeing their improvement. And then also just seeing like what doesn't work. Like, hey, it worked for me. It was something that I did a lot, but I've got 11 guys and we worked on it for 9 months and it didn't help them. So, all right, that goes out the door, right? You have to check your ego. And I think that's one of the harder things for guys that, have had successful NFL careers or really in any sport. If you've made the Hall of Fame or if you had a great career, you've got to have an ability to check your ego if you're a coach, because there are some things, like you said, with Wayne, that the guys just won't be able to do. And instead of getting frustrated, all right, let's have no ego about this. Let's not put it on the players. Oh, you're not smart enough or you're not good enough. No. All right, let's find another way to do this. Let's find a different way to learn. Let's find a different way to get to them to be able to get the same outcome. And I think that experience for me was just tremendously valuable, not only just from running an offensive line room and running practice, but being able to understand like different ways to get at each one of the players to get the outcome you want.
Joe Thomas with us. I wanted to ask you about, I don't know if you've heard in the NBA, there's a discussion throughout the years of 2 timelines with certain teams, like when Golden State had these awesome veterans who had won championships, but then had a batch of rookies. And it proved to be really hard to be able to accomplish 2 things at once. And I wonder sometimes about the Browns when it comes to that, because you have these aging veterans and then you also have these young, exciting rookies that you want to develop. How hard is it to do that with an NFL time period condensed now like it is with training camp? Because before you know it, after next week, it's going to be all about getting the team ready for week one.
Well, it's really hard in the NFL, but the only cheat code is having a great quarterback, because that's the guy who's probably going to be able to play the longest. You know, we got a 40-plus-year-old quarterback right now. He's on, 18 years in the NFL or so. And that's a guy that he can be that person, that steadying force, that rock in that organization, who's the consistent leader, the consistent voice. He's the guy that sets the culture. He's the one that everybody follows in times of adversity. He's the guy that gets people to show up when maybe they'd rather go and hang out some other country and go travel with their family or their friends. Like, having that guy at the quarterback position really is the ultimate cheat code. And I mean, it's no surprise. It's the most important position in football. They pay these guys twice what they pay anybody else because they're worth it, right? And so really that quarterback is the only thing that can give you that consistent level of success year in and year out. The Patriots did it forever. And you saw, hey, Belichick, greatest coach of all time, but all of a sudden Brady's not there. Well, maybe the system and the coaching's not that much of a difference maker that we thought it was.
Is that why, Joe? I mean, the experience is one thing, but I mean, we've had old quarterbacks play for us before, for crying out loud. That didn't work. But I mean, there is this leadership. I mean, he's a Super Bowl MVP. He's a guy who's been a multiple-time Pro Bowler back when Pro Bowls meant something there. Is that part of the reason why hey, we know things could happen. It's a weird year, but this guy's going to start the year to try to get us off on the right foot?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any inside knowledge over who they think is going to be the starter. I mean, there was some talk about Kenny Pickett maybe winning the job earlier in training camp because he was looking really good, and then he got dinged up a little bit and then has been out. And I don't know if that means he's still not in the conversation as one of the starters, but I think after having experienced quarterback rooms where you've got a young guy and you've got a couple young backups behind him, I think it's tough because going back to what I said about being an O-line coach, okay, you're an O-line coach. You could be the greatest O-line coach in the history of the world, but if there's no O-linemen in that room who are buying into what you're selling, who believe in your culture, and who can spend the time one-on-one at an O-line dinner or when you're over at somebody's house or in the locker room, you just have more access. And I think there's even a higher level of trust among your teammates, especially when you have a veteran guy like a Joe Flacco that can impart wisdom and knowledge and process upon Shadur and Dylan and Kenny Pickett to some extent. That I think that's invaluable. That's why you see so many of these veteran quarterbacks sticking around, even guys that don't really play much, because it's so valuable to have that player coach in that room that can help and that can guide and give wisdom and experience. And without them, like, who knows what you're going to get? You might get some good. You're probably going to get some bad, but the guys in that room don't have that experience to know that if they are doing and saying some of the right things, if they're building the right process, because at some point that coach is going to go upstairs and they've got coaches meetings that they've got to attend and they've got to get ready for practice and they've got to do game plan and scheme. And at that point, the players are left to their own devices to figure things out.
Joe Thomas with us on the show. You were with a lot of rookie QBs, guys who either didn't have it or had their head up their ass or whatever reason it was. What is the biggest mistake Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders can make with the team as rookie QBs?
I think the biggest mistake you would make is trying to act like you are the guy before you have earned it on the field. And neither of those guys have. So I'm not saying that they have, but I think watching rookie quarterbacks, like if you don't have those pelts on the wall and all of a sudden you're the guy that wants to break it down and you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then that's a real difficult thing because guys aren't going to follow you. I heard something a while ago early on in my NFL career that said, like, if you want to be a great leader, it starts with doing the things right on the field and in the meeting room. And that's what guys are watching and that's what guys see. And then if you want to be the guy that comes up and gives us those rah-rah speeches and is the one that's coaching everybody on the field, that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. But you've got to be able to put it together on the field. You got to prove to the teammates that you can do it, that you're doing all the right things, and that you're going above and beyond what they're doing. So I think the guys right now, they're doing a great job of that. And I think it really does help having that Joe Flacco in the meeting room because he is such a great leader and he has such great experience and he can be such a great teacher for them.
Joe Thomas with us on the show. Last one. Almost called him Flacco again.
Thank
I've got Flacco on the brain. I'm sorry, Joe. I asked you this last night. I want to ask you again. Mike Bloomgren, new offensive line coach. I was excited. And then I had a lot of people calling me dumb because, it didn't go well at Rice. I don't know when the last time it has gone well at Rice, but regardless, what does Mike Bloomgren bring to the table?
Well, I'll just say, you're a product as a coach of the players that you coach. And, I've had some coaches that weren't that great, but had great offensive lines. And I've had some great coaches, and we just weren't able to get it done. But I think Mike Bloomgren's a great coach. Just being able to be around him this week. I went to dinner with him last night, getting to know him a little bit better. Like, I see the things that he's teaching. I see how he's getting through to the players. I see how he's working with Dewand and how Dewand has been bought in to his coaching style and what he's teaching. And I think he's got a great consistent voice of what he wants. And that's so important. Just reflecting on my own time in Munich again, I think one of the challenges for me was seeing so much and having lived 11 years in the NFL and having that higher level of knowledge, but understanding that sometimes guys aren't ready for all of that, right? And sometimes you have to be able to be a clear, concise communicator and not give them everything at once. Just give them little breadcrumbs along the way. And I see Coach Bloomgren doing that. He's doing a great job with these guys. And, who knows what the season brings. It was only one practice, but offensive line had a great day yesterday against the Carolina Panthers, who have a pretty good front seven. And I think the team was really happy after watching how they performed together. Obviously, we got 4 veterans who you expect great performance, but I think Dewand bringing up his game and starting to play at their level, I think this is a really exciting offensive line for me this year.
Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer. Check him out online, sixspringsfarms.com. Joe, we thank you very much for the time. We'll talk to you when you get back in town.
Yeah, guys. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Joe Thomas on the Fan Hotline. What he just said about Mike Bloomgren, I got to expand on because football guys got to be football guys.